Mm. All right, family, I want to do this quick video. I hope this would be quick. Um, I wanted to, I entitled this one Red Summer, uh, 1919, The Ancestors Speak. So let me just say this. I think that we are definitely living in some times where, you know, I guess we have progressed, I guess. I mean, or progress or whatever that is. But I also know that the ancestors have a way of unearthing themselves at certain times. You can never really predict when, but they unearth themselves. They just kind of start reappearing. And I watched the documentary, and I've been watching a lot of documentaries, particularly about race riots in particular, because the ancestors right now are just really speaking to me uh, about their journey, like just really heavy. And National Geographic have a documentary out that's called The Red Summer. Let me see if I can pull up their, I'll show it to you on the screen while I'm talking so you can kind of see what I see. Here it is. So I hope this will show up. Let's see if it showed up. Yeah, here it is. It's called The Red Summer. And it talks about the summer of 1919 and they're calling it the awakening, if you will, of basically um, of what was happening during the time. So one of the things, I'm a student, so I'm forever, ever a student. I'm always constantly studying. That's really what I do. Um, but in looking at this documentary, there's a lot of them. Of course, I tried to watch them all. I'm a documentary watcher. Always been like that since I was a very little girl. I am intrigued by history because I don't know about you all, but when I was growing up and I would hear my Uncle Stanley, blessed memory, who's an ancestor, was born in 1923. He died in 2003. Um, and he would always talk about um, just how every time Black people will attempt to do something or own their own stuff, that white people will come and tear it down. You know, when you're young, you don't really understand what people are really talking about. I mean, because you're young, so you don't really have like a idea. First of all, you think, why is my uncle always so angry? You know, or why he's so disappointed. But sometimes you just don't really understand like where people have been. Like, you know, I know I didn't. I didn't really understand what my Uncle Stanley was talking about when he would speak about white culture or working for white people. Sometimes it's Black folks because a lot of us don't know our history or what happened to our people here. I'm talking about your immediate history, not history taking you all the way back to Africa, because that's not what I'm talking about. Sorry, I'm talking about the history of what happened to us here in America. That's the history I'm talking about. So I would always hear my uncle like referencing and talking about just how white people treated them. And I really didn't understand it as a young little girl. I just thought my uncle was always somewhat kind of, I loved him dearly. Anybody know me, I love my Uncle Stanley. But I would just be thinking like, wow, like why is he so angry with these people? Like, why he talked about how white people do, how everything in their world, somehow they had to always keep considering your white people. And I really did not understand that. And so I did study and I started to see some of the things that were happening. But when I started looking at documentaries like Eliminate the Roots, and more recently, looking at these red hot summers, because my uncle was born in 1923, you know? And so when I looked at, in particular, um, uh, Oklahoma, or There's so many black towns, like, because I heard about how they, after slavery, black people got busy trying to build a life for themselves. They were really trying to figure out some things for themselves. Now, what I know is that when you experience trauma, and for black folks, it's kind of like we live in trauma, like every day, you tend not to talk about it. I don't like to talk about bad things that's happened to me. I don't like talking about it. I really don't. So I couldn't imagine them having to talk about the horrors that had happened to them at the hands of white people and a whole white society. Not one or two white people. It's almost like it's coded in the genetics of a lot of white people. I don't know what that's about. But my Uncle Stanley just would just always tell you stories, and then white people would be in the middle of the stories. You know what I mean? Where you would be like, you know, I really didn't understand that when I was younger. However, when I started watching this documentary called The Red Summer, and I used to hear about the Red Summer growing up, I didn't really know what that meant. And it talks about all of these outbreaks, and I don't know, I'm gonna say outbreaks of violence that happen against Black people, particularly when Black people try to have their own stuff. Now, when I hear people in general say of color or Black and brown, I take issue with that because we're not having the same experience. And this is where we just Black people got to have a come to Jesus moment with themselves. So no other group like Black people try to, after coming out of slavery, build something for themselves, and the white society be so angry that they burn all their shit down. And and what gets me is like this was something like it's not like we all on Facebook at that time. There was no Facebook, there was no internet where you could drop something in a second that is happening. But the fact that all of these so-called white people had the same thought process to have a plan to eliminate Black people from being able to have anything for themselves and their own ownership. That's a problem. And I really believe that reparations, I don't think white people get to tell us what is reparations, why they can't do it, how we should do it. They should just be like, we just got to pay these people straight up, because what happened was just atrocious. Like you were basically sitting and you get to live your life with your ancestors' benefit of all the horrible things they did to people and the systems that were set up that you get to live on and live with and exist with and build generational wealth with. So when you look at a documentary like that Red Hot Summer, there's a whole bunch of them out. Some of them are free on YouTube. We should be educating ourselves. So I get the whole ADOS movement. I think that's great. But I feel like, please know your damn history. Like for real, not just something you heard somebody speak because you think they're charismatic or they speak well. Like you gotta know what really happened so you don't step out there sounding like the world's greatest idiot. You know what I mean? Like you really gotta know. I believe our ancestors are taking this time to unearth themselves to us, to these mass graves, family. You know, we haven't even got to the devil's punch bowl. I mean, there's so many things that's happened to Black folks. And I feel like this is our time where we're supposed to do something for our ancestors because we're supposed to have a little bit more than what they have, even though I think they were freer than us to a degree. But I really believe that now is the time that they're unearthing themselves because we are supposed to be doing something. And that's why they're showing up like this. That's why their bones are being uncovered right now because they're pulling on us to do something that we should now should have the power to do. It's ironic that we'll look at these documentaries and we'll see the same cast of characters like the police, like systems set up elected officials who sit by and do nothing, who kind of talk and just kind of like now having their white mayor whose father and his grandfather was the mayor. Do not tell me that he did not benefit from that red hot summer, that red summer, you know? So it's kind of like, can we ever right these wrongs? And I kind of think I think we definitely can, but I think it's going to have to be done with some harsher pushback. We can't ask a person that had done wrong to us to do right because I really don't think it's in them to ever do right. But that's just me, you know. And this is not about saving your one white friend or your white husband. It's not about none of that. It's about doing what's right because what happened to our ancestors were atrocious. Every time black folks attend, and that's just the race riots in the 1990s. We're not talking about all the other systems they put in place to keep us disenfranchised, not allowing us to have home loans, putting up everything that they can think of to keep us held down. When really the biggest original sinners, they owe us for that. But they could be paying us for that forever. Slavery. But then there's all of the other things you did, like you would not leave people alone for them to build their own stuff. That's really sad, family. That's really sad. And so it is up to us to, to pray, to move, to push people to do what's right. This is not a black and brown issue. This is not a of color issue. This is a black people's thing that happened to us. See, other cultures come here and they can live next to each other, and they can build towns, and nobody's dropping a bomb on them. Nobody is going to have a red summer and kill up all the Asian people, or have a red summer and kill up all the Mexicans. Like, it doesn't work like that. That has happened over and over and over and over again to Black people in America. That's a problem. That's a real, real problem. And so I urge you all, please watch these documentaries. Watch them with your children. If your children know all that damn trap music, make sure they know this history, because this probably is going to save their lives. I'm just going to be very honest. Watching stuff like this probably will save your child's life. I'm putting it back on the screen. National Geographic has it as a documentary. There's also have it in the book form. You can find it on Amazon. But the same way we, let our kids listen to all kind of stuff, they gotta know this particular history. They just gotta know it. Like, we're doing ourselves a really big disservice and not letting our kids know about this unique history that impacts them to this day. I don't know about you all, but I often wonder, when I was growing up and knowing that a lot of my ancestors came from the South, why they never took us down there. They talked about it, but they never took us. And why some of them never wanted to step foot back into the South. And I strongly suspect that even though we're highlighting Tulsa and a few other places, Greenwood, Elaine, I mean, we could just go on down the list of these atrocities that happen to our people. You don't get to tell people how they should be able to deal with the violence that's happening to them. We don't get to do that. That's not okay. And the more I watch these documentaries, I mean, Elaine is in Arkansas. I'm sorry, not in Arkansas, but I'm just saying, because I've watched one on Tulsa as well. But it's just like, and one of the things I learned in watching the Tulsa one is that I learned that a lot of Black men fought back. They never even as I started learning, they didn't even tell us. They made it seem like we were just all scared, and but some of them fought back. And then, there were men who were formerly in the military, and they fought back, family. They fought back. But they don't tell us that part of the story. They literally fought back. I didn't know any of that. These are things that we need to know. Like, these stories, we talk in Arkansas, we talk in Oklahoma, Black folks trying to get away and make a way for themselves. Trying to get away. So we can't convolute their journey with other people's stuff, because that's not our stuff. Something is owed to Black people in America. I'm not talking about Black people, I'm talking about Black people who suffered here in this soil. Something is owed to the descendants. Those people trying to build their own stuff. So I seen a documentary on Elaine, Arkansas. I seen a documentary on Tulsa, Oklahoma. I mean, Wilmington, North Carolina. I mean, you could look all of these places up. These were race riots in the 1919s. I mean, 1919, 1917, where they basically were eliminating all the brutes. See, if you see the film, a docuseries Eliminating All the Brutes, you can look at these race riots and know exactly what you're seeing. And this is not something that is taught like, oh, because I think when Black people start defending white people on this bullshit, it's because you're thinking about your one white friend or maybe your white husband, I don't know, or your children that are half white, I don't know. But that's for you to decide in your heart. I'm talking about a systematic a plan that it seems like white folks been running for at least 500 years. Where we're constantly asking them for something. We're talking about reparations. I don't know how white people get to tell us what reparations is. I've never seen a Jew let a German say what reparations will be with them for World War II, even though that did not happen here, but still. I've never seen one conversation like that where a Nazi sympathizing, German tell Jewish people, we're not paying y'all shit. We're not giving y'all nothing. That was back in the day. That's not me. Or, like so we got to really get this right. If you really want to help Black people, you just need to and I personally think that the proper way to do reparations is land, money, and federal protections. Because y'all just cheated the way that you cheated our ancestors, and then you continued the system on us. That's a problem. And that's really bad. And it makes you not want to believe nothing out of anybody's mouth. So if you send me a Black politician and he coming with that kumbaya shit, he don't get to speak for us. No, because it's kind of like you really work for these people. So you're never going to help me because you think it's about your job. So that's not happening. I think if you don't teach your kid nothing this summer, if y'all can go to all the music parks in the world, please sit down with your children and watch these red summers. Watch Tulsa, watch Elaine, Arkansas, watch Wilmington, Delaware. I mean, it's all over the place, y'all. We should be watching all of these documentaries. That's just like we watch Love and Hip Hop and Love and Bullshit and Love and Chaos or whatever we want to call it. That's great, if that's what you want to do. But you got to know something about yourself, and you got to know why you are in the position that you're in right now. What happened that Black folks don't never have any towns that's their own, but you could actually roll to parts of this country, all over this country, and Asian people have their own section. And Latino people have their own section, and all the other groups have their own sections, and they can live together and have stores together. Why don't African Americans have that? And most of us don't even know that we had that before. And something happened. And we don't talk about what that something happened was. We gotta look at that red summer. We just gotta, y'all. If you want our children to survive, really, because here's the truth, family, if we do not look at what happened to our ancestors and learn from it, we will perish. We will perish. I'm just going to be flat out honest. We will be no more if we do not. And I'm telling you to dig a short distance. 100 years is really no time. And it will help you to really understand some of your older uncles and aunties and grandmamas and why some of them are so goddamn bitter. It's not like they bitter because they just want to be that way. Something happened to them, and they didn't get any justice. They didn't get any reparations, just even for the small things that happened to them. I mean, were big things, but they didn't get anything. People left their property, things that they worked for, seeing other people wear your clothes that they took out your house and things that they took from you as they burnt your house to the ground. See, some scientists says because of slavery and probably all the other things after it, that it has changed African Americans, our DNA. And that's what the other Black people who come here don't understand, because they want to act like we're all together and that fake monolithic shit we like to do as a people. But there is something very unique about African Americans, the people who were enslaved here. not the one who belonged to the Indians, because I know those. I'm not talking about them black folks. I'm talking about the ones who were enslaved that came over here on ships. The DNA, you can't experience that much trauma in your life day in and day out, and your DNA doesn't shift. That's what they're saying, that it doesn't change. It does change. They're saying that it's changed. We come on the planet under a lot of stress. We're in our mom's womb in a lot of stress. And that's because people are constantly cheating you out of your birthright. People are cheating you out of everything, can't give you fair housing, don't want to give you clean water. Like it's always something with Black folks that people are constantly thinking that it's okay to do to us. And we can't deny that, family. I'm sorry that some of your best friends are white and you don't want them to feel that you're coming against them, you know. And so why do we talk like this? Because something is wrong, family. And so the way we have our children listening to just nonsense, they should know this stuff. They should really know this stuff, family. That 1919, the Red Summer, that's what we're having right now. We know that every 50 to 100 years, white people, and if you're a good white person, you know I'm not even talking to you. Unless you're feeling some way because maybe you had thoughts. Maybe you sat there and didn't do shit when the bad white people were doing stuff. But we know white people start feeling some way when Black people start uniting and working together with each other. Then they come up with some kind of super stuff to be like, we can't have this. And we all know that that's true. Y'all know I'm not saying nothing that y'all not thinking. And of course, we have some of our people who do a lot of crazy stuff, but we know in our DNA makeup, we have experienced off the charts amount of trauma and violence. It's off the charts what we're experiencing, you know? And then it's kind of like we have to really push for that reparations. And I'm saying land, money, like for at least 400 years worth of money, and federal protections, because Black people don't get treated the same as other people. That's how I know we ain't in the boat with the other so-called people of color, because they actually have banks and supermarkets and restaurants and whole neighborhoods that they live in. Black people, it's hard for us to get that. Even when we buy houses and we get them appraised, people cheat us out of the appraisal. We get jobs, people pay you less, even though they want you to do twice as much work. It's like, I don't know if this society is able to see us as free human beings and not as their property as we were for hundreds of years. There's always this way of keeping us under their oppression, and that's got to stop. That's just got to stop, because that's crazy when you think about it. Like, why would you need to treat me like that? You know? But I think you begin to look at this through reparations. And don't stop saying that you don't think it's going to happen. Because you be the first Negro, if they pass something, standing in line talking about where my check at. You know? My Uncle Stanley, blessed memory, who lived through a lot of these days, family. Lived through a lot of these days, family. He used to always tell me, like, anything worth having is worth working for. That you must work for descendants you're never going to meet. You must leave your imprint of memory so that your children will never forget you and your descendants may never forget you. This is crazy. This is crazy. If you have not watched it, there are docu-series on the Red Summer of 1919. I watched one from Elaine, Arkansas. I watched one from Tulsa, Oklahoma. I watched one from Wilmington. It goes on, y'all. This happened all across the country where Black people were forming their towns. Because I often wonder what happened to all of the Black towns. What happened? I know in Allensworth, they put arsenic in their water. That's how that was a major stop on the train. And that's in California. If you ever go to the Lynching Memorial in Montgomery, Alabama, I'm telling Black folks you need to visit these sites. I get tired of going there and it's full of white people. You know, we need to be there praying and giving thanks for them unearthing their bodies because our ancestors are speaking heavenly. They are speaking heavenly and heavenly. They are making us remember what happened to them so that we can continue on this struggle. Right on. So we definitely be thinking about right at this second. So what happened, and I got this picture up here. Let me make it a little bigger because I want y'all to see this. See if I can make this. To me, always when I see something like this, I think about my Uncle Stanley because he lived in these times. He talked about people who talked about him. Georgia and White burns 5 Negro churches. This is them burning the Black man over coals. This is them. One story talked about how the Black people were hiding in the swamps where they were in a particular race riot. And then the National Guard showed up, or somewhat like the National Guard, with the governor. The governor was out there hunting Black folks. I think this was in Arkansas. He was out there hunting Black folks. Had his hunting rifle. They got pictures and everything. And the Black people thought that maybe these were the military coming to help them. And as the Black people stood up out the marshes, they were shooting them down like dogs. They were hunting Black people, hunting family. So no, you don't get to tell me how reparations should look, Mr. White man, Mr. White woman. You get to pay that damn tab. You get to make sure Black folks get to buy land. You get to print some more money and even this thing up for the next 400 years. Because it took y'all 400 years to do all the stuff you did to our ancestors, which is to us. And the crazy part is that most of us believed in this system because that's all we had. So I think the other part for me with my ancestors, I'm never mad at them. I'm never mad at my ancestors. I'm gonna be flat out honest. I can never be mad at them. I'm so grateful for their grace that they kept going because that's in me. I'm glad they kept going. But now that their bodies are being unearthed, don't get distracted, family. This is not a love fest. This is not the people of color versus white people. No, because everybody who has come here has stood on the backs of Black people. Everybody, including other so-called people of color and minorities. All of them have been on Black folks' back. And I don't want to hear they're victims. They're not victims. When you victimize somebody, you stop being a victim in my book. Because you came over here with all of your things intact. Nobody took nothing away from you like they did Black folks. Nobody's burnt down your whole goddamn town every time and a wish of a summer. So reparations, family, yes, we need to be watching these documentaries. Love and hip hop is cute for entertainment, but fill your brain up with some facts along with that fiction. Fill your brain up with some actual truth, family, and some real historical history. Tell your ancestors thank you for bringing you to this side and that you will continue to work, that you will continue to build. Tell them that. I don't think y'all heard me. I don't think y'all heard me. I don't think y'all heard me. Tell your ancestors that you're here and you're going to carry on this fight. You're going to make sure that reparations get paid to them. You're going to make sure we unearth all the places where they buried Black folks in mass graves after they murdered them to take their property and their land. Tell your ancestors we're going to fix it. That you coming through to this side was the purpose of it all. You got to watch those red summers in 1919 because family, that's where we are right now. It's about time for them to do that same act again. This is not about white allies in the street doing shit and then saying Black Lives Matter because that's not what I'm talking about. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about you setting up a system so that we can get paid what you took from our ancestors. They struck oil in Tulsa and they robbed those black people of oil. Then you're going to kill them and bury them in mass graves, leaving their bodies in the street. This is some crazy shit, family. But I believe if you got here to this side, that's because you're supposed to be here doing something. You're not supposed to be here watching crazy reality TV shows without doing your work. I don't mind if you have fun, but please do your goddamn work. Please do your work. Think about the generations you're never going to see. Do you want to walk in people's house, in your as an ancestor and see your picture on the wall? And I'm saying, no, that's the ancestor right there who stood up and gave him hell. That's why I'm wired like that. That's my ancestor who knew, you know what I'm saying? That's real talk, sis. That's how I want to be remembered. I want them to have a little something like, no, Mama Rowe, Auntie Rowe, period. This is what she stood for. What I heard them saying when they were talking about the Tulsa documentary I watched, they said those black people helped each other. They helped each other. See, they didn't tell us the story when they was coming in there that those black men who were formerly in the military stood up against the tyranny the first night. But the next night they came back and they had like the military and not helicopter, and airplanes dropping bombs on these people. They were held up in the church. See, that's that real history. Now I'm telling you, I watched that. That shit made my blood boil, and I felt some way. Then I felt proud in my spirit because my ancestors were fighting back, and they don't tell you that part of the story. And white people do what they always do. They always got to come back on you because they really won that first battle. They talk about that. Javon, there's two films. The first one is called Red Summer. I watched it on Hulu. And this one talks about what happened in Elaine, Arkansas. And then the other one is called Tulsa Race Riot. And I watched that one on, that could have been Hulu. But all I did is spoke it into my remote. And that one, the one on Tulsa, because it's like the family of descendants, what was so dope, it talked about all the stores they had and their hotel rivals, like the best white hotel you can see. I mean, these black folks were like the creme of la creme. Like, because when you got there, you had to be the creme of the creme. That's how you got there. And they systematically, and then one person was saying they knew that they have been stockpiling weapons, white people, because they knew they were going to come get these black folks because they didn't like their position and what they had. And I want to say this, it don't mean that they stopped trying. That's what I love about being black. We don't stop trying. So when people say, well, I can't build nothing, that's because your ass is lazy. You got to keep trying. You don't get to say, I'm tired. And you ain't even tried to do anything. Like, what is that? Yeah, it's good, Javon. Make your blood boil. But I felt so proud because they don't tell us that black folks fought back in them race riots. But of course, they did what they always do. They came back the next day, like with their airplanes and just bombed the hell out these people. I was just like, what the? Somebody got to pay for that. And I'm so grateful that our ancestors are unearthing themselves. See, because they tried this back in 1990 and it didn't work. Or trying to find these bodies. But now they done hit pay dirt. Like they found these bodies in these mass graves. And I feel like we're not going to get out of this mess unless we go back and study our ancestors. Because we're going to keep repeating these same cycles because we don't want to study our history. We want to act like what's happening now is now. Nothing is now. Everything is built off of yesterday. And if we don't honor our ancestors, if we don't venerate them, if we don't recognize them, if we don't see them and hold them up, we are going to be visited by the most craziest shit, which is what we got right now. We will never get out this hell if we don't learn from what's happened before us. It's just not going to happen. And I believe we deserve to be free, but we deserve payment. We deserve payment. And it's not up to white people to tell us how they're going to pay us. That's not their job. Their job is to say, what we supposed to do? That's what they should be saying. I don't give a damn. I get the whole thing with Juneteenth. But let me tell you something. You don't get the Jews no damn Juneteenth. They want money, cash, land, federal protections. That's what they got. Black folks need land, cash, federal protections. Straight up, just like that. My uncle says it to me all the time. He said that all the time. There's nothing you could do for tomorrow if you didn't know yesterday. Nothing. You'd be lost in the darkness of yourself. So you gotta. We owe it to our ancestors. We just owe them, y'all. We owe them because one day we will be an ancestor. I don't know if it's that I'm getting old, and this is really my truth, but I really feel like, when death comes to people, the shit almost be like a rest because there's a lot of work down here trying to get living people to understand how dead things work. Because the only thing that dies is your body, but your spirit is still here. That's why you can't kill the spirit of Hitler. He's going to always be here. But you can't kill the spirit of Harriet Tubman because she's still here. These are all energies, people. But if we do not venerate, if we don't honor them, if we don't say their names, then we're in the worst hell we've ever been in. And I don't know about y'all, but I don't want to be an ancestor and then come back here and my descendants and my nieces and nephews are doing horrible. I would feel some kind of way. Look at this damn weather we got. You ain't gonna tell me that things aren't real. Right? They passed that law quick in a hurry. But you know what? That's because Asian people value their shit. They value their ancestors. They value their peoples. And I ain't hating on them. I'm just saying black folks got to push just like that. Because you best believe there was some black people helping to push that law through. These are the same Negroes who did not want to talk about reparations. They was only forced to talk about reparations because of all the talk of other black people saying, them Negroes don't speak for me. We're talking reparations here. So whether if it's the ADOS or Ice Cube's contract, everybody was trying. But the fact that now we're talking about it, because it didn't come from the elected Negroes. That's not their job. Their job is to keep this government of America flowing with us on the bottom, them as representatives in the middle, and then white people on top. That's their job. Their job is to beg and scuffle and plead with white people. That's their job. So they really can't help us. Black folks are better off to stand up and speaking for themselves. Do not let your ancestors down, family. Do not let them down. They deserve to be recognized. So, family, if you haven't watched it, it's the Red Summer of 1919. Please check it out. I'll try to come back and get all the videos and stuff like that with the copies and stuff. And if you haven't, Javon, thank you so much for Eliminate All the Brutes. I've been telling everybody about it because that was another good documentary. But after seeing that and then seeing the Red Hot Summers, it fit right into what that man talked about and Eliminate All the Brutes. This is the same exact thing they did in the Red Summer. It's almost verbatim. All right, families, enjoy y'all Monday. Peace.